Yeah, today my name's Des Kinlough. I'm the UK BIM digital lead for Bureau Happold. And today I just want to talk you through our process from making BIM to BIM as usual in the practice. So to frame the company, we're a global engineering consultants with 31 offices across the globe, with over 3,000 staff, and we pride ourselves on being pioneers in digital design. We cover most major engineering disciplines with over 30 disciplines, with our core engineering disciplines being structure, infrastructure, and MEP. And we work in one collaboration space. Like many companies, we share our projects across all different offices. So it's important that, digitally we're enabled to lead that. I'm sure you've all seen this curve, the Gartner hype curve, and it's a process I think everyone goes through. There's that technology trigger, everyone gets really excited. We have this inflated expectation, then you overpromise, underdeliver. There's this trough of disillusionment, and eventually you end up at this plateau productivity. So I suppose what the journey I'm talking to you about is pretty much we've followed that to a T. And that's we've probably plateaued probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And yeah, what it's led on to. So yeah, we can all do our showcase projects. This is one of our showcase projects, the Louvre Museum. But really the challenge is not to just do the Hollywood BIM projects, is to also do your mundane projects and making it BIM as usual. That's the challenge. So how do we make BIM simpler, faster, repeatable, and business as usual? So, Bill Gates said back in 1980, a computer, made this statement: the computer will be on every desk and in every home, and people, I'm sure, thought it was mad. And thinking back to when we started this process, probably 2011, 2012, CAD was the main system. So to actually say that we're going to drive this adoption, it's not obviously as high as what Bill Gates said, but it was still a challenge. So the problem with generalizing BIM is it does take a significant investment. And if it's uncoordinated, it leads to inconsistent service for our clients. And you end up, if it's not organized, you end up reinventing the wheel many times across your practice. And then you have your risk of not reaching your potential efficiencies. So our challenge was, how can we make BIM efficient? Return on investment had to be, we said we could, make that 10 times the investment that was invested in this technology. And how do we make it BIM as usual? Get to a maturity score of 3, meaning that everyone's at a competent level. So this is quite an old survey, but it still happens, and I think it's happened through the change of time. When any new process that comes in, the biggest problem, you can tackle software, you can tackle standards, policies, but the resistance to culture changes is the biggest area that you've got to challenge. So that's something that we took quite seriously. So I'll talk you through that. So the first thing, our mandate was that every new project will be delivered. This is back in 2011 in a BIM workflow where appropriate. So we kind of said, we took a practical approach, that not every project, there were certain projects that didn't need BIM. Obviously, it was more consultancy-led project, or it was the use of it was not appropriate. I managed to a BIM policy as defined against BIM stages. So in the center, we've got BIM stages, and we categorized our BIM projects by stage 0 to 3. 0 being no BIM at all, 1 being siloed BIM, lonely BIM as it's called. So it's just yourself that's using it. Stage 2 would be a collaborative BIM project that you're working with a collaborator, an architect, an engineer, together with inside that collaborative environment. And stage 3 is more contractual, data consumable project. We had a policy against each one, so we challenged if no BIM was being required. We made sure we have our own internal BIM execution plan if it's a stage 1. Stage 2, made sure we had a project BIM lead assigned and had the appropriate training. We made sure that there was appropriate fee and that it was signed off by the project director so that we were taking a bit more serious. And then stage 3 is all of the above, but with a data QA plan and the PD, involved and trained. So like any adoption, you need to monitor progress. So we created Power BI monitoring, which we've made into a more formalized dashboard now. But it was a really good way to understand that your policies were being adopted and making sure that the use of data, we were able to track where we were on our journey. So we tracked, what stages that just explained, how many, we obviously wanted to move up to the higher levels. We also checked documentation, adoption in the region, and certification training, which I'll go to in a few slides. So obviously, people and creating a network was one of the main things that we adopted straight away. So we had a global head of BIM, and then we had a regional lead. So our company is split into regions. So like I say, I lead the UK side, but it was my equivalent in our different regions, and any specialisms like a specialist consulting team and our infrastructure team. We had a lead for that. And then in some regions, such as the UK, that have a quite high volume, probably 50% of our staff are in the UK offices. We also had, office and discipline leads to really drive adoption. So that is really key to making it work. The regional BIM leads would have to have implementation plans put together, so they, how adoption will be driven in their specific regions. So different regions have different skill sets, different needs, different clients. So that was a requirement for each lead, and that was monitored. So there was 4 pillars that we looked at for our adoption. So it was people. You obviously need to invest in people, the processes, making sure the right processes are in place to ensure that the technology can be used, the policies that underpin it all, and the technology. So there's a list of some of the subcategories in each one of those, and I'll kind of go through over the next few slides on some of these, highlight some of these areas. So policies, it's probably the most boring part of the whole process, but it's quite important. It underpins everything. Having the right policies ensures consistency across your practice. So I've just shown up some examples here. There was 4 here on the screen. Looking at up from left to right is the kickoff agenda, a standards document, a QA document, and our level of development, level of information document. And there are standards, some of our standards that are also used. So we had our policies created. Obviously, investing in people and training is important. So we've quite a lot of training that we've built up over the years, but our core training was from left to right again is Whiteflow, which is an online software that we purchased, that would give us the basics for Revit skills. So that has increased recently because more people come in with Revit skills, but at the start of our journey and still now, there's people that need that training. So that gives them a kind of base level, and it's easy to roll out because it's done centrally. And I'll get how we assess these people. But that was mainly for senior engineers and below would do that, and open to people above if they feel they need it. Then we realized that we needed more specific Bureau-Happold company training. So there was many names. One was called BIM Bootcamp. It's progressed into BIM for Engineering series. And then we also laterally in the past 5 years have started to do academies and started to look into visual programming. What at the base of that was having good BIM skills to allow you to use the data to do the computational engineering. And then finally, BIM 101, which is more related to our senior management, which looked at the commercial side, scopes, standards, the change in philosophy of of a project that is done this way and workflows, so they can really understand and lead the projects properly, which is a really important part of it. So like I mentioned, competencies, we had to prove that obviously everyone was at a required level. So we purchased from left to right is a knowledge smart software, which allowed us to create assessments. So we were able to ensure that all these people, all the staff had reached a competent level in the training, and then that was also dashboarded, so we could see that across the practice. We've also used BRE Academy and some of our own BIM lead certification, because putting our team through specific BIM lead training, which is a new role that's come out in the past 5-10 years in the industry, but quite an important one for the success of a project. And so we wanted to make sure there was investment there, and we were comfortable that they had certification before they start managing jobs. So I'll look a bit now at on the process and technology side and efficient production. So you've done your policies, you've done your training. Now really is the meat and bones to it is actually being productive and automating processes. It can be as simple as creating sheets and views to inputting between data in Excel and back and forth to cleaning up a model. So we invested in softwares such as Kinship. We know Gary quite well for our content management and analytics. We looked at some add-in tools in the industry, RF Tools, RTV Exporter Pro. We built our own tool called Adroit, which was where we found there was gaps in the market, and then we started to look at automations using visual programming in Revit, and Navis using Dynamos and Grasshopper. And then obviously our adoption and making sure that that data is managed, and that was through Power BI. And as Gary explained, we use a lot of the tools for analytics. So it really helped us to manage major projects, major models, and understand our workflows in our projects. Like I say, visual programming has become a key kind of skill that we require from our teams, and we've invested heavily in this area. And so we treat it very much like Excel, and putting formulas in Excel. If we see efficiencies that are bespoke to projects, we enable our workforce to have those skills and create them. We also have a central team that creates some scripting, but we also want that as a skill base for all our staff. So just again, going on better integration, we work a lot with calculation packages, being an engineering company. So again, we had to invest in tools, and we have to invest in processes. So this is an example of how our sustainability team, who look at analysis for overheating. They would normally build two separate models. So we looked at this process of a single analysis model, where we could bi-directionally push data between the analysis and our BIM model, also create the actual geometry in the BIM model and push it to the analysis model. So we've invested in that, and we can see a real workflow improvement between both these pieces of software. So probably about 8 years ago, we started to, there was a big problem that we've all seen and has been highlighted in a lot of presentations I've listened to over the past 2 days, in that, the biggest problem is the interoperability between tools and no common schema. So we tried to bridge that gap by building our own code schema that is, looking at the challenge of how we work today as a collaborative, in a collaborative environment. It's open code, open and accessible, and that's kind of been really a basis of how we've built our tools going forward and shared it with the industry. And there's been some good examples of people utilizing our code bomb. So yeah, that's a kind of like quick whistle stop tour through how we've got our adoption, and to be as BIM as usual. It's allowed us now to really get the key benefits. It's something that has to be managed still, You know, it just doesn't look after itself just because it's business as usual. It still has a kind of maintenance, but that investment has really borne its fruit over the past 10 years. So I suppose the challenge that we look is how do we make BIM business as usual with our clients, and how we can, you know, they can leverage that side of things. So again, it's something that's probably been repeated over the past couple of days, but better decisions arise from better information. Better information arises from better information management. So having the correct data inside is something that, you know, the industry is looking at and we're looking at more. So this enables us to actually, this is one of our BOM tools that we've created, where optioneering, you know, looking on the left of all key decisions, whether it's commercial or whether it's an engineering decision, we can start to optioneer through all different types of scenarios. And again, that's using good data inside it, mix of our computational tools and BIM skills to come up with these scenarios. So this investment has allowed us to both bear fruit on these type of tools. Similarly, again, our sustainability team have looked at how they can look at overheating and daylighting, especially in residential for our clients, and what is the best scenario, what is the best tool that we can use, or best option that we can use, so that we can drive decisions earlier to a higher level of detail, so that they can really make informed decisions earlier rather than it be a costly mistake later on in the design process. So just to finish off, yeah, like I mentioned, form follows data. I think there's been a lot of talk and it's been quite inspiring listening over the past 2 days to some of the presentations. You know, I think as a community, and I think we're all in agreement, and I think the hardest part is actually us all, you know, having a common approach and agreeing on a common approach. But we need to rethink our approach to use of data to innovate and reshape the project space and to transform our industry. Because BIM is the digital medium for all this. And, you know, it's quite easy looking at different you know, different organizations and how they've changed their workflow, you know, from Netflix have taken over from DVD, you know, Spotify is taken over from the DVD and the CD. You know, our industry really needs to take a look at how we are going to change going forward in this space. Okay, I think that's it from me. And again, thank you for the opportunity to present today.